Katie Arrington versus Joe Cunningham for the 1st Congressional District of South Carolina. In this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups, I sit down one-on-one with Republican candidate Katie Arrington. And be sure to download the free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. And listen to this interview later on iHeartRadio. Katie Arrington.
How are you?
I'm fine here. How are you is the question.
I'm fantastic. It's been, gosh, since June. I'm doing really, really well.
What is the biggest difference between the primary in June to right now in your mind?
My whole mindset changed. I mean, the accident and then my mom passing. Much more focused, very, very focused on November 6th. And every day is packed to get to November 6th. Very focused.
And I know something a lot of people are focused on right now is this developing story coming from the South Carolina Department of Transportation. And it says this: the SCDOT approves the project to complete widening of I-26 between Charleston and Columbia. If you were a congresswoman right now, what should you do next? What would you do next in your mind?
So there needs to be federal funds to be able to do that matching state funds. So making sure that that part of the project was taken care of. So not sure that breaking as of how long ago.
How ago?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
So just making sure that the federal funds are ready and available to match the state funds, because federal roads need federal funds to come in. So that would be my job. But that's that district would be partially mine, future. Jim Clyburn's as well, and I'm sure that Congressman Clyburn has done his job on that.
Quickly describe to me the following in one word: Jamal Khashoggi.
Why do we need to talk about that?
Well, he's the Saudi journalist, and this is Quintin's Close-Ups, so I get to ask those questions. So,
what do you want to know? Deceased, saddened?
Where are you emotionally with this?
So I'm going to say I'm on the side of he's obviously dead. Otherwise, I think he would have talked to his family by now, and I am very familiar. He walked in and handed his cell phone to, I believe, his girlfriend before he went into the consulate. So I'm going to go on the fact that I've been saying prayers at night that he's probably not with us anymore. I appreciate the Saudis investigating. Turkey needs to investigate. I think the U.S. needs to if they ask us, we don't have any jurisdiction in that area, so send the FBI in. We don't have any jurisdiction. It would be like if somebody, he wasn't a U.S. citizen, so it's a very fine line. He was a journalist, but he wasn't a U.S. citizen, so where do we go? But I think if the Saudi prince has anything to do with it, I stand with what Senator Graham is saying, that, we have to do something immediately, very forcefully. That's, we get upset if you bomb, use chemical weapons on people. I think calling somebody into a consulate and hacking them to pieces is a violation of human rights, don't you?
Describe to me the following in one word: border security.
Border security?
Yes, ma'am. That's
one
what
word?
I'm saying. Yeah.
Necessary.
China.
Bad.
The economy.
Good.
Pre-existing conditions.
I am one.
Judge Kavanaugh.
Good.
Let me turn over to something else that you've been talking about recently. And I know it's been offshore drilling.
Yeah.
And I know throughout the entire campaign, you basically said, I literally have been preparing myself for this in my entire life. How have you been preparing yourself for this offshore drilling debate?
So offshore drilling, I am not for, but I have actually worked and spoken with the president, the vice president, and senior administration officials about a policy to exempt South Carolina. Now, my opponent said in the debate the other night that, local mayors have banned it, and it's sad that he doesn't understand the law of the land. Only the President of the United States can lift or impose a ban. I have to work with the President to get that done. Working before I'm even elected to get that done. Economically, there's no value add to do a drill off the coast of our tourism district. That's kind of silly. There's a coral reef out there. I don't think we'll be doing it there anyway. But more than that, I educated myself. There is, by all the studies that I've read, Oceana did a study, South Carolina did a study, there is no oil out there. And in 1948 to 1960, the MMS, the Department of the Interior, they actually gave 7 permits to Georgia, and we fall in the same area, the zone area on the coastal waters. They drilled 7 drills, there was no oil there. They went a mile down on each, there was no oil. So I have yet to see any scientific evidence there's oil, so I think that this is, my opponent trying to spin people up in a false narrative.
And let me get back to the offshore drilling debate, because I know recently you talked about the history of the offshore drilling, and you basically say, hey, if you want to talk about offshore drilling, let's talk about when President Obama was in office.
Yeah.
Talk to me more about that.
So when President Obama was in office, he was working on the same plan that Trump now has, the president has. Deepwater Horizon happened, and I believe that the president was smart, Obama, in saying, wait a minute, we need to look at how we're drilling for oil. We've had this accident, it's caused a lot of issues. How are we with our OSHA? How are we with EPA? How are we in notifying and preventing and being proactive when there is a spill? The problem is with this, at that time, it's 200 nautical miles out is what we have control over. So when President Obama put the ban on, that meant U.S. companies can't drill in U.S. waters, the 200 nautical miles. What happened was China went 201 miles out, and we're drilling in the Gulf of Mexico, not off the coast of South Carolina, in the Gulf of Mexico, and there was no oversight into what they were doing. That is problematic. They're taking our natural resource, and we're actually buying it back from them. It's ours. It should not be taken from us. And if they have a oil spill, there isn't even any regulation for them to do anything or be held responsible for it. So when Trump lifted a ban, it was directly speaking to the Gulf of Mexico. Get out, China. This is ours. You don't need to be there. My opponent wants to make it into something it's not. It's sad. That shouldn't be the issue of this campaign. We have far greater things that are imminently important to us. Keeping the tax cuts permanent, making them permanent, getting our infrastructure dollars back in the state and fixing our infrastructure, and by that I mean roads and bridges and storm drains. And the third most important thing is immigration and border security, cleaning those up. Those should be the platforms we're discussing, not offshore drilling, which won't ever be there because there's not oil there.
You talk about the infrastructure dollars. How much more dollars actually or should be coming back to the 1st Congressional District?
So this past year, just an example, FEMA in a HUD grant sent $157 million down to the state of South Carolina to work on flood mitigation. We should have more of that. We have a very vulnerable hospital district that needs help, that if there's a tidal surge, we'll have a problem there. We need money to fix infrastructure along the entire coastline. We need monies to come and protect the shoreline. That we do a lot of beach renourishment, but we don't have any preventative measures to break waves coming in if that's what the community and the state wants. I mean, there's a lot of things we need infrastructure dollars for that we're not getting right now that are more important and I think more crucial, critical issues to us right now than worrying about an offshore oil drill that won't ever happen. One last question.
I got a couple. Getting with his close-ups.
No, we gotta go.
Hey, I'm right here on good video right here, sir. So let me get back to you. So what I'm thinking is this: the bridges in the 1st Congressional District. What are those biggest bridges right now that are on your mind that are just in need of repair right now?
Well, we need to build more, right? Because we had the Wando go down and literally crippled our drive times for 6 weeks. We need to either put another level above or make them wider. But we need to have more ways to get across to and from island and peninsulas. So those are, we have all the port traffic coming off on that side, and we have 2 lanes basically going over. We need to increase that. That's absolutely needed. That will take some time, though, because we have to work with the Army Corps of Engineers, and we have to build and design. These are long-term goals. I think it took Arthur Ravenel to get the Ravenel Bridge, 12 years, 10 years.
Right.
We need to start looking right now because we are in a dire need already. So those are the things. We have funds in the state to do maintenance and repair. We also get some federal funds, but we need to definitely do more to shore up the commute, the quality of life. I mean, ultimately, that's safety, quality of life, transit times. Those are the things we need to be looking at.
But what is the quality of life right now in the 1st Congressional District in your mind?
So if you're sitting in traffic for 2 hours every day, that really diminishes your quality of life.
Okay.
All right, that's a big one. If your kids don't get to see you before they go to bed because you were an hour and 20 minutes getting there to work, getting home from work, emergency services can't get to you, you die. Those are impending quality of life issues we need to really look at. But the other side is flooding. I mean, let's look at how many property owners have been flooded habitually here over the past few years. Every year they flood. That's a total disruption to their way of life. And that's something that we need to be cognizant of and figure out how we can mitigate floods from happening than having them happen and then dealing with them. If a house floods, we need to look and figure out what is causing that flood to happen. That's why when I get elected, I'm going to have one person based in district from the congressional staff. Their whole job is to be the point of, they say the center of excellence, but the point of communication for the entire community, all the municipalities in the state, to get the federal information, what's coming down from Washington, and how we can use it best in the state and the local municipalities.
And what's that one thing that you want people to know about you between now and the election day, that is?
I'm not for offshore drilling. I am a Republican, a conservative Republican, and I'm about service over self. And how I'm doing that is I'm donating 2/3 of my salary. Every year I'm there. Not just once. Every year I'm there to charity in the 1st Congressional District.
And what is serving like in your mind right now when you think of that? What's your definition of serving?
Listening to the constituents, getting educated on what they need, listening to what Washington thinks the problems are, and to be the translator between the two to actually make something happen.
Katie Arrington, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate this.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right.
Anytime.
Take care.
All righty.